I am delighted to welcome composer and pianist Arhynn Descy. Arhynn has recently completed scoring the feature film 9 Nights, which has been nominated for Best Director and Best Female Performance in the British Screen Nation Film and Television Awards, and won Best Director at the Pan-African Film Festival in Los Angeles. She has also scored the action thriller Eye for an Eye. Early film credits include the thriller Dirty White Lies, the romantic drama Vanished for Dreams Come True Films, and Andrew Moody's feature documentary Forging the Dream. She has scored a number of shorts and composed for the theatre, including Chekov's The Cherry Orchard. Arhynn is also a pilot, and I am really happy to be able to catch up with Arhynn between flights. I'm Marie-Anne Fischer, talking from Fair Oaks Airport in Surrey, England. Welcome to the Soundiron Podcast. I'm here with Arhynn Descy. Hi Arhynn.
Hi.
Thank you for inviting me on board.
Good to have you here.
Wonderful to be here. I'm looking at all the knobs and instruments on the panel in front of us and wonder whether there are any similarities between piloting a plane and mixing a track.
Oh, I like that question. That's amazing. Do you know? Probably in one way it's similar. It's about balance, really.
Yes.
So when you've got all your plugins and when you're mixing, you're trying to balance the music and come out with a beautiful sound. So the sound is the important thing. On the plane, you're using your instruments to balance the plane so you have a nice and level and smooth flight. So
Yes.
maybe in that kind of way, I don't know. Never thought about that.
Well, that's a really good answer. You have both French and South African roots, but now work and travel extensively. Can you please tell me a little bit about yourself, where you come from, and how you came to be involved in music?
So I was born in South Africa. My father's French, my mother's South African, and I grew up in South Africa. And then as an adult, I moved to London, where I've been since then. Now I travel a lot, as you mentioned. I spend a lot of time in LA, France, kind of wherever I need to be, basically. The music, it started when I was really young. I was desperate to learn the piano and begged my parents, and we just didn't have the money. We had no piano, we had no money, and so for absolutely years I begged to learn the piano. And then one day a friend of my mother's was selling her piano, and she sold it to my mother for a very small amount of money. And I started piano lessons like 2 weeks later. So that was the thing. I absolutely loved it. And initially was a pianist and piano teacher, did a lot of teaching and played whenever I could. But gradually, as as time went on, I started finding more and more I wanted to write my own stuff, and gradually moved into composing.
Fantastic. So what was the first turning point that set your career in motion?
Well, I suppose there's always lots of little turning points, but for me, one massive turning point was I had the opportunity, I got onto the Los Angeles Film Conducting Intensive with David Newman and Angel Velez in Los Angeles. They put out a call for composers who were interested in learning to conduct. And 12 people, or 13 actually, I think it was, were chosen from around the world, and I was very lucky to be one of them. And went to LA for that, and it opened my world. I met the most amazing people, and everything happened after that. I got my first feature film after that. It was like the door opened at that point. So,
That sounds
yeah.
absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
I remember seeing a photograph of you on the beach, and it looked almost like you were conducting
Conducting the birds.
seagulls. Yes, yes.
Yeah, no, it was because it was every morning. I mean, this was an all-day thing. We were having tutorials or classes or demonstrations all day, and it started with conducting practice or movement, body movement, on the beach at 7 o'clock in the morning
nice.
in Malibu, which was complete. And there would be, 12 of the 13 of us all standing there, looking out at the sea, conducting. I mean, to anybody watching that, it must have been an absolutely hilarious sight.
Absolutely wonderful. Yeah. And traveling and working between countries means that your workflow must be very organized. Do you have a mobile studio, and what equipment and technology do you use?
So yeah, I do have a mobile rig. I basically could fit everything into my hand luggage, so that Fantastic. It doesn't have to be packed. I carry with me a set of Genelec 8010 speakers, a little Akai keyboard, laptop, external hard drives, multiples of those, an extra monitor, a USB, you can plug it in USB, a pair of headphones. Oh, and my Apollo Twin. So it's a very heavy piece of luggage.
Can imagine.
I got stopped the last time and told it was too heavy. So
not much room for clothes.
Well, it's the hand luggage. So my clothes go into onboard stuff. But yeah, Excellent. It's what's important, really, isn't it?
Yes. I guess you're very organized then every time you travel as well.
Yeah, I have a way of packing now. I know exactly what to take and what to put in and where it is, so yeah, I can find it straight away, and it's very organized.
Excellent.
I've managed to score some films with that rig, so it works.
That's absolutely fantastic. And even traveling between countries as well, do you sometimes find that you start working, scoring a film in one country and then travel and then continue scoring the same film in a different country? Has that happened?
It has. I mean, one example was the film 9 Nights. I basically finished writing the music before I had to go to the Berlinale, the Berlin Film Festival, and some corrections needed to be done, and the recording of the instrumentalists needed to be done. So I was actually working from my room in Berlin, sending scores to the players and doing corrections or changes while I was there, and then going in to the festival and then coming back and working more into the night. So yeah, it does get moved about. Yeah.
Nice. How do you find client engagements differ between countries where you work, from first contact to completion?
To be honest, I think this world this composing world has become quite international, and I think most people work the same way. It's been my experience that people work the same way wherever you are. There are slight differences in the contracts. Like Americans like a work for hire contract more than a sync license. But the actual process, I mean, often people are sitting in one country, working with a team that's in another country, recording with a team that's in a third country. I think everything's become pretty standard now. And well, that's been my experience.
Okay. I've been listening to your beautiful composition, Sandstorm of Mars, on SoundCloud, which you as you said, you conducted at Eastwood Scoring Stage as part of the Los Angeles Film Conductive Intensive. Can you please talk us through how you developed your ideas into a full orchestral score?
thank you, Marie-Anne. Thank you. So we were going to be conducting our own music for the Los Angeles Film Conducting Intensive, and I had just finished reading the book The Martian, which I would list as one of my favorite books. It was absolutely brilliant, and I'd got to the end of it and was looking for inspiration for a piece of music, and thought, well, that's it. I have to do something from The Martian, and so I took some scenes from the book that I really liked, 3 scenes basically, and created a sort of mini screenplay for myself, and then composed to that, so that I had a visual in my head when I was composing. And with that, there's 3 sections. Basically, the first section is setting up the mood of being in space. And to do that, I thought, well, it's a very floating environment. You're floating and no gravity. So I wanted music that had that floating feel. So I used fourths or quartal harmony to create that opening bit. And then when a storm turns up, then I move into more traditional harmony, and the music changes to describe the storm. And then the final section was basically after the storm, when he realizes he's all on his own on Mars, and that kind of lonely feeling. So for that, I went for a very nostalgic and lonely feel. And again, I used a horn there to get that feeling of the loneliness. Basically, when I compose, I write straight into the instruments. I don't think of things, in a piano and then change them into orchestral. When I hear a sound, I think, oh, that needs to be flute, or that needs to be harp, or whatever. So I go straight to the orchestral version, straight off. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, that's absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Can you please talk us through the recording session? Did you have a team supporting you?
We had an amazing team. So with being David Newman headlining this, we obviously got the best of the best in LA. We had all the top musicians. They were contracted by Peter Rotter, who's an amazing contractor in LA. We had a team of engineers, and the main recording engineer, Scott Michael Smith, who's a phenomenal engineer, and he actually also mixed my track for me afterwards. And then we were supported by, Angel Velez, who was running the conducting thing, was keeping an eye on us, making sure that it ran smoothly. It's a really well-oiled machine that operates there. And we had 15 minutes each, which is a very short amount of time to record. I think my track was 3.5 minutes. So actually I had time to play it through 3 times. That was it. And then 3 takes and we were done. So it was very quick.
And were you happy with the results?
I was really happy. I basically used 1 take in my final edit. I think I just chopped, 1 piece in. But, the musicians were amazing. They just did it. It was just an amazing experience to stand in front of these awesome musicians and hear your music come to life. And you're waving this little stick around and they're listening to that. So that's you. It was amazing, yeah.
What a nice experience. Are you able to share a little bit more about Spy versus Spy? How did you manage to be both producer and composer for the shorts?
Yeah, it was fun being so basically with Spy versus Spy, I was early. It was early in, when I was starting out, and when you're starting out, you're getting short films. Quite often, they're student films, and they're often not the kind of subject matter or the genre that you want to be scoring eventually. And the short film genre is, or the short film format is very different to a feature film format. So the kind of music you would write in a short film is very different. And I wanted to have an opportunity to show what I could do with a feature film. So I came up with this plan to make my own film, and I got a young director, and I said to him, "Would you like to make a spy action film for me?" And we want to make it look like it's an extract from a feature film. So we treated it as if it was a feature film, which gave me the opportunity then to write the music that I wanted to do, and yeah, so that's how I became a producer, because I then had to make it happen. It was great fun. I really enjoyed doing that.
And how did you divide your time?
Well, that's easy because most of the producer sort of work where you have to be there is during filming and prior to filming. So I could just do that. And then once we had an edited version of the film, I then sat down and wrote the music. And by then it was just, it was post-production. There wasn't, it was a small project, so there wasn't a massive team. So I didn't have to do much producing at that point. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And so the soundtrack for Spy vs. Spy was also performed live for a Woman in Film concert organized by you. How did you put the concert together, and what inspired you to do so?
Well, I was I really believe that we need to promote women in this industry.
Definitely.
And we need to give them a voice, and they need to be heard so that people know what they can do. And I decided that it would be a good idea at the time. No, it was a good idea to put on a concert that featured 10 women composers. We were conducting our music to picture, so we had a group of 9 instrumentalists, and we did this in LA, and we invited all sorts of people in the industry to the event, and there were drinks and cocktails afterwards, and it was an absolutely amazing evening. And I have been told actually by one of the sponsors, which was ASCAP, so a woman in ASCAP, Jennifer Harmon, and she said it had a big impact, that people walked out of that room with a different view.
Good for you.
So yeah,
Nice.
So that was really exciting, and so yeah, I did Spy versus Spy for that event.
Great. So now you'll need to do it in London too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you find it important to have an agent, and what percentage of your work is generated through the agent compared to by yourself through your personal brand and reputation?
I think the having an agent, for me, it's important, and I'm lucky I have an agent. I know for some people they quite happy to deal with the whole business end of things themselves. I like to be able to hand over the business end to an agent and have them deal with contracts and that kind of thing. The other thing I really like about having an agent is it feels like you have a team supporting you, which is, it's a lonely profession, as we do a lot on our own. We're marketing ourselves, we're spending all that time working ourselves. It's like having a cheerleading team back at home behind you going, yeah, go. So I like that aspect of it. It feels very positive. In terms of actually getting work, I think that at the end of the day, it's your music and your relationship with people that is what sells. And that's the most important part. And so I do think that that's the bit that one needs to focus on. Is basically an agent has multiple clients. So the only person who's going to be looking after your interests 100% of the time is you yourself. And therefore, sure, agents bring in work, but you need to be out there looking for it yourself. You need to be creating the opportunities, creating the relationships, making good music, delivering on time so that people come back and come back and come back.
Yeah, that's very good. How quickly do you find you have to respond when you hear about an opportunity for a project coming up? Are you willing to share elements of your typical pitching process?
No, it's all secret.
Shit,
No.
come on.
Most of the time you have to be really quick when an opportunity comes up. There's so many people pitching. Every now and again, yeah. So you can hear this is an airport. It's noisy. Every now and again, you get told, take your time. I had that recently where we were pitching so far in advance of a project that I they wanted to hear what I would really come up with. And that was just utterly amazing because it gave me a time to think. But generally you have to jump on it. You've got a few days, maybe a week if you're lucky. And what I like to do is to really know about as much as I can about the project as if I was doing it properly. So if it's based on a book, I will attempt to read the book fast, speed read it, or if there's a script, read that. If there's neither of those, then I do as much background research as I can and try and find my way in, and in the same way as I would if I was actually scoring the project. So I always try and find an angle, whether it's a sound angle, an emotional angle, something interesting. So for an example, it could be that it's full of nature, the film, and so you want to include nature sounds in some sort of way, or breath instruments for the wind or whatever. So I might do that. Or if there's specific harmonies, like as I was describing with Sandstorm on Mars, I wanted to create the spacey effect, so I went for harmonies that would achieve that. So I always try and find my way into the project in an authentic way.
Those are really great tips. Thank you for that. Are you able to balance your work and personal interests and life? What advice do you have to help our listeners in achieving this balance?
That's such a good question, because I think we as composers, especially when you're starting out in the industry, you just want to work all the time, and you're very worried when there is no work, and you're frantically trying to find more work. And what I've realized, being slightly older coming into this industry, I I realize that you can't sustain things ongoing without getting ill. Also, being a composer or being a success as a composer is not a destination. It's actually a road. It's a whole road you travel. So it's your life, and if all you're doing is working, then you're cutting off one whole section of your life, or maybe multiple sections of your life, like relationships, etc. So for me, when I'm actively scoring a project and there's a deadline, that's all I do. It's 12, 15, 18-hour days and 7 days a week, and I'm happy to do that. When it's done, I always take a break, and the break varies. It could be a week, it can be just a few days. It's based on what I need, and I do utterly different things when I'm like flying. I cook, I read, I walk, I do all the things. I catch up with friends, spend a lot of time catching up with friends, because I don't see anybody when I'm working. So for me that works. I like to break things up into pockets, and be working one time and then completely free another time. Works for me. I know for some people it doesn't, but you do need to pace yourself, and you need to learn your rhythms, your own rhythms. When do you need to sleep? When do you need to be completely away from music? When do you need feeding of any kind?
Yes.
Soul feeding or etc.
And when you work on a project, do you only focus on a project until it's finished? Or do you take some time in between? Do you find, or do you prefer absolutely being focused on not doing anything else?
It really depends on how much time I have. If it's a long time that I have, if I've working on it for a few months, yeah, I'll take a day off or an afternoon off and go and do something else. Going flying for me is my go-to thing, because it just frees my mind. I come back feeling energized and inspired and ready to get back to work. If, on the other hand, I only have 3 weeks to finish a project or whatever, then no, that's it. You don't see me. I'm buried. I'm in my pajamas in my studio. I look bedraggled.
Don't we all do it?
Yeah.
Happy place.
Yes.
I For Now was recently released. Congratulations. How did you come up with the score for this action thriller? Can you talk a little bit about the music you have created for the film?
So, thank you. It's it's doing the festival circuit at the moment, which is kind of exciting. It's when you first find out what people think. It's a spy film that involves Americans and Russians. So, my all-time favorite topic. And the team I worked with both the producer and the director on that one, and they knew exactly what they wanted. So they could tell me what they wanted. So from that point of view, it was very, very easy getting into it. There was a minimal temp music. They often put in temp and said to me, "That's just for the energy. Don't take any notice of the actual music. It's just to give you an idea of what energy we were looking for in a scene." I then, for this one, I needed to find themes. Basically, the themes for the Russians, themes for the main characters. I even had themes for the baddies.
How many themes did you have in total?
I think in the end I had probably 4 or 5 main themes, and then I used snippets of it for various reasons. And they turned up all over the place and changed them a lot. And then it was action music, so a lot of it was you just needed to put some energy into a scene, or help with the energy in some sort of way. But as I said before, I love finding my way in to a film. Even if it's something that only I know I've done, it just gives me a reason to write things in a certain way. So for Eye for an Eye, there were lots of deceptions and people hiding things from each other, and there was the two main characters sort of falling in love. So that was my way in. I hid things all over the place in the music, basically. Not going to say where, but I did. That was my way in. Yeah.
And what were the main instruments?
So it was a low budget film, so most of it was done with samples. I had an electric viola for the main spy, female spy. That was her instrument. So I was thinking something warm but also exciting and racy and sort of kick-ass.
Nice.
So that was her instrument, and then it was a mixture of orchestral and electronic. Couple of the scenes, one scene in particular, I actually was very lucky to have some live recording going on in that, of a full orchestra, just for a big main scene.
Mm-hmm.
So,
can't wait to see it. Can you share what projects you are working on at the moment?
I've just finished scoring The Tombs, which is a horror film that was filmed in the London Tombs, and that one is about to start on the festival circuit, hopefully. I'm starting the work on Quarantine Island, which again will be a horror film. This one they haven't even started filming yet, so I've got lots of time to work on themes and come up with ideas and really think about it, which is really exciting. I've got a couple of other small projects about to start, which are on NDA, so I can't really talk about it. But one involves playing the piano, which I love. It gives me an opportunity to play the piano. So
fantastic!
Yeah.
All exciting stuff, Arhynn. Well, thank you very much for taking part in this interview. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule, and to include this session in your flight plan as well. It's just really nice. And thank you for your generosity, for sharing this information with us as well. And have a nice flight and bon voyage.
Oh, thank you, Marie-Anne. It was so much fun having you on board.
Thank you.
I apologize there was no in-flight service.
Next time, right?
Next time, when we have the jet.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks.